Hello again, and welcome to another Unity and Fmod tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at instances in a little bit more detail than we usually do, and we're also going to be looking at how we can use the PlayOneShot method to saving us writing out more code than we need to. So as always, let's jump straight into it. Um, First, let me explain what I've got set up in my level, as I usually always do. I've got my gun, I've got my level that I always use for these examples, but instead of firing a bullet sound or making a bang that you usually expect from a gun, this gun, whenever I press the left mouse button, it's going to be playing music. Now that might sound a little bit weird, but it will make sense later on in the video. It's obviously for demonstrational purposes. So first thing I want to do is talk about instances. So I'm going to jump into one of these scripts here. I'm going to jump into the fire gun script that's going to play the music whenever I press the left mouse button. I'll explain what's going on here. So first thing we want to know is what an instance is. And the best way I could describe one is it's a way of calling Fmod events in our case, or it could be just raw audio files if you're just using Unity, but it's a way of calling Fmod events from the game's files or the sound banks to be used within the game's code. Okay, that's basically what it is. So as you can see here, this is the script that I've used a few times in other tutorials, but we're going to look at it in a bit more detail, especially with these instances here. So first thing we can see that's happening is that I've created an Fmod Studio event instance, and I've called it Play Gun Sound. Now, this doesn't have any Fmod events attached to it just yet. It's just got the name, Play Gun Sound. But when I use the void awake function, so as soon as the game starts before the first frame is called, I'm then attaching that instance to this event here. Okay? So now whenever the instance is called Play Gun Sound, it's basically going to be calling upon this event. Okay? So now if we check the update function, whenever I press the left mouse button here, that instance is going to start from the beginning and play. Okay, now it's important you remember that. It's going to start from the beginning and play. So let's have a look and see what happens when we play that script. Okay, I'm going to play my game, and I want you to take notice of what happens. I'm going to press the left mouse button, but while the music's playing, I'm going to press it again, and I want you to see what happens. Okay. So as you can hear, it stopped, essentially. Instead of the music carry on and then a new one playing, the music stopped and started again. And the reason why it's doing that is because whenever I press the left mouse button, like I said, all it's doing is telling that instance to start from the beginning and play. So if there's only one event instance, meaning there's only essentially one event being called upon, we can't call upon more, if that makes sense. We can only tell that one to start again and play, okay? Which could be a problem in some cases where we want the same event to be called multiple times and maybe essentially heard on top of each other. So the way we fix this is with this script here, and I'm actually going to quickly jump into Unity and turn it on before I forget so I can show it off later. So I've got two cases where we can basically achieve this, okay? Where we can let the event play and play a new one on top of it. By the way, I'm using the same event for all of this, okay? I'm not using extra events to cheat. So now what's happening is I've taken all those lines of code and I've put it into the update function whenever the left mouse button is pressed. So instead of calling upon, so whenever the left mouse button is pressed now, instead of just telling that one event instance to start from the beginning and play, we're creating a new one every time it's pressed, and that new one will start from the beginning and play. So this way we can layer sounds on top of each other. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. I'm going to jump into Unity, play the music again. This time I'm going to press it while the music is playing. And just a quick warning, by the way, if you're wearing headphones or you've got your volume turned up quite loud, because because this will sound quite loud. Obviously, this is just a good way to demonstrate it. I probably could have picked something a bit quieter, but I didn't. So here we go. Oh, so I actually pressed it 3 times there to really demonstrate what's happening. Every time we're creating a new instance of that event to be played, so we can play it as many times as we want. Cool. So Now that we know that, we can do this in an even more efficient way. So what I'm going to quickly do is just tell this code, oh, not like that, tell this code to deactivate essentially, and then I'm going to turn all this code on, get rid of that, save that, there we go. Okay, so this code here, this update function is essentially doing the same thing, but it's using a play one shot method instead, which is a lot easier in this case because all we're doing is just playing a sound. Now, so let's talk about what play one shot does. So this is our line here, play one shot, and what this is doing is every time this is called, it's going to create an instance, play that instance and whatever event is attached to it to the very end until there's no more audio, and then stop, okay? That's what it does. So every time this is called, it creates a new instance. So it's essentially doing what this was doing up here, but a lot easier. But it needs to know two things. First, obviously, is the event it wants to play. So as you can see there, that's my event or my event path. And it also needs a location, okay? Now, usually it takes a vector, so you type in the coordinates of where you want it to play. But if you want it to just be played at the same location as the game object it's attached to, you could just do this. You could say game component transform. So what it's doing is it's taking the... Oh, hold on. I've just got to wait for that script to compile now. Give it a second. Come on, it's not that big. Hurry up. There we go. Okay, cool. So it's taking this component here, the transform component, and it's also taking the position of that component, which you can see here are these coordinates, okay? So that's where it knows to be played, okay? And the good thing about one-shots is we don't have to type in any extra code for 3D events. We can use a 2D event or a 3D event and it will work the same way. This music is a 2D event, but I've also got a script that uses a 3D event to demonstrate this, which is this one here. Now, this is for a different example. So if I jump into Unity, I can demonstrate the example. Now we're not playing music. What I've actually done is I've set up a little ball to fall whenever I press the E key on my keyboard. And whenever that ball collides with anything, it's going to play a sound, okay? So let's have a listen to it. There we go. So if I walk into it and collide with it, it's going to play that sound. So with that in mind, let's jump into the code that it uses. So on collision enter, it's going to perform these. Well, not both of these. I've got these shown so we can show different methods of play one shot. Usually you just have the one, okay? So let's have a look at the first one. The first one is exactly the same as the play one shot I just showed you, but we're using a different event this time, a 3D event. But we're still using the same method. We're saying get component transformed position, so it knows where to play that sound. And because it's a 3D event, we can use audio attenuation, so it has different volume levels the further we are. Okay. But the other line I've got here is play one shot attached. Now the difference here is instead of taking a vector or trying to find the component to find a location, it just needs the location of a game object. So it takes a game object variable. So in this case, I've just said this.game object, so it knows to play the audio at the location of the game object that the script's attached to. Okay. So those are two different ways you can use it. I think the difference is that play one shot attached checks every frame for the location of the game object, and maybe play one shot it takes a location and then it always plays it there. Okay. So by doing the get component method, that location can change. Essentially, these are doing the exact same thing. You know, in this example, I could use either one of those and it would achieve the exact same thing. It would play the sound wherever that ball is located. But depending on what you're using, you might want play one shot attached. You might want play one shot, okay? So it depends. So that is basically everything I wanted to show you. As always, please let me know if there's anything you want me to check out within Fmod and Unity, and I'll see if I can. I've got a few videos planned, actually, a little bit to do with instances, a bit more anyway, and a bit more ways we can control our audio and balance it within our games so we haven't got things too loud or too quiet and all this. So, that's it. I've been Henry Scott, and as always, thank you for watching.